Hello, welcome. Today's lesson is going to be about the appeasement of Hitler as he begins to expand in Europe. This is Mr. Osborne, Fairview High School, spring 2020. So, quick overview. The term appeasement it's a word that is used by historians to describe this period of time. You could also describe it as a strategy that was used by Europeans leaders in response to Hitler's expansion in the 1930s. Okay, Britain and France were the two kind of big players that were against Hitler's expansion, but they didn't do anything to stop it. And Italy, of course, signs an alliance with Germany in May of 1939. And the Soviet Union, while another major player in this theater of war, if you will, they end up signing a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany in August of 1939. So they're kind of also not against Hitler and his expansion. All right, so the first step in this appeasement process is that Hitler decides to remilitarize the Rhineland. The Rhineland was this strip of land between Germany and France that had been demilitarized through the Treaty of Versailles, so that Germany could not have troops in that zone. It basically provided a buffer between Germany and France. And so Nazi Germany, under the orders of Hitler, sent armed forces back into the Rhineland. And Hitler actually was unsure about this move. He wasn't confident. His advisors didn't really suggest it. And so he gave his generals the order to retreat if France actually sent in troops to respond. France, however, did not, and basically England said that they weren't ready to fight Germany, so France didn't do anything. That was step one of appeasement. Step two, the annexation of Austria, also known, I believe you say it as Anschluss. Anschluss, there we go. So Austria and Germany are separate countries. They were required to be separate countries after World War I. Obviously, when they joined forces, World War I, bad things happened. So part of the peace process was that they could no longer be a unified country. Now, Austria and Germany share language, share culture, and so they felt that there's almost this movement for German reunification, and that included bringing Austria and Germany together. So when Hitler begins to expand, he starts applying pressure to the Prime Minister of Austria, who eventually says, you know what, I quit. He resigned, and an Austrian Nazi took his place. And then the Nazi military, the Wehrmacht, invaded, if you will, Austria in March of 1938, but it wasn't quite an invasion because they didn't have to fight, and the Austrians cheered them and welcomed them into the country. The very next month in April, Austria became an official province of Germany through the democratic process. So at this point, with the appeasement, they put troops. The Nazis put troops in the Rhineland. France and Great Britain did nothing, and then with the reunification of Austria and Germany, again, that violated part of the peace process after World War I. However, Great Britain and France still did nothing besides say, hey, calm down a little bit. So this next step, step three, is truly an aggressive step, and that's whenever Nazi Germany annexes the Sudetenland. Right, this happens in September of 1938, and there's this border region between Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia that had a lot of German-speaking Czechs, and so it was Czech land. It belonged to Czechoslovakia as their territory. And what Hitler decided to do this one is he called a meeting together. He was applying pressure, pushing them, and Czechoslovakia kept on saying, no, it's ours. You can't have it. And so they had a large, four-party conversation between Mussolini, Chamberlain, who was the British Prime Minister, Daladier, who was the French Prime Minister, and Hitler. They all sat down in Munich, and they negotiated, and basically the end result is that Great Britain and France began to apply pressure to Czechoslovakia, saying, hey, you really need to give it back to them just so we can keep Hitler happy. And this was true appeasement, keep Hitler happy so he doesn't start a war, essentially. Of course, what does Hitler do? This step 4, he takes the rest of Czechoslovakia, breaks it up into Moravia, Bohemia province, I believe, and then the Slovakian province, they form a kind of a puppet state there. And so by March of 1939, Czechoslovakia was completely occupied, and that's when things really started happening. So March, the Third Reich now has full military control of the Rhineland, has already joined with Austria, has occupied or otherwise, annexed Czechoslovakia, and in May of 1939, they signed the official kind of Pact of Steel, the official alliance with Italy. They also signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union in August of 1939, and all the boxes have been checked. Hitler is now ready to begin his war effort, and the kind of first step he takes is he invades Poland. Okay, so September 1st, 1939 is the classic start date of World War II, and that is the invasion of Poland. And we'll pick up this story next week when we talk about World War II in Europe.